Hello crafters, I'm JanB and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I'd like to show you how I made this card. To start with, the card pieces that you'll need are a base of Whisper White. So this measures 8 1/4 inches by 5 3/4, scored at 4 1/8. You need some cherry cobbler, which is 5 5/8 by 4 inches, a Whisper White layer, which is 3 7/8 by 5 1/2 inches, a piece of, I've got a funny piece here, a piece of Whisper White that's 3 1/2 inches by 3 1/2 inches, and a piece of Tip Top Taupe, which measures 3 1/2 by 5 inches. That doesn't really matter for me, but I do suggest you have a decent piece of the Tip Top Taupe. I've already prepared my bits, but I can still use this to show you. Right, okay. Not quite sure which is the right order in which to do all of these pieces. So if you decide to make this card, you may well decide to do it in a different order. Anyway, I'm going to start off by putting my cherry cobbler base on, layer onto my card base. And then I will probably do the Tip Top Taupe bit first, I think. I think this is one of those cards you need to do several of them to work out a sensible routine for them. Okay, let's take Tip Top Taupe. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm using the Hardwood stamp, and I'm going to use VersaMark on it. I'm not doing any heat embossing, but what I want to do is just to get a very, very faint wood effect onto my Tip Top Taupe. And I find VersaMark is absolutely brilliant for that. I could use the Tip Top Taupe ink, but it will come out a fair bit darker than what I want. So I'm going to, if I put it like this towards the edge, and then do my VersaMark. Now when you put your Tip Top Taupe on here, you do want to make it as straight as possible. Okay, so if I put that on there, and then I'm going to bring this over to push down on it. Keep one hand on your cardstock underneath there all the time. The cardstock being under there all the time, not your hand. Okay, and then once you feel happy that you've done all of that, you can lift that up, and I should have my tweezers here somewhere. Let's take another pair. Okay, so that really is very nice and light. So move that out of the way. Now this, you need to use your trimmer or your guillotine to cut it into 1/2 inch strips. And the reason I said that this doesn't matter is because I've already got my strips over here. Mind you, I will still use that, but I don't recommend that you use it. The trouble is, I know chances are what I'm going to do is I will slice it all up. I'll probably forget that that's there and still use it on my card. I'll let you know if I do. Right, okay, so we can move on to this one, and what I'm going to do first, in fact I better get rid of that, hadn't I, because I've used VersaMark on it. I'm going to do my sentiment first, And the stamp set I'm using is Wondrous Wreath. So I'm going to be using this leafy wreath and that one, the sentiment, the bow and the flower. So really making the most of this stamp set today. So what I'm going to do is I'm doing my sentiment first, because if I do it after I've stuck all the banister, the railings down and the banister, it means I'm working over a bump, and that is not a particularly good idea. So with Cherry Cobbler ink and my Stamp-a-ma-jig, I'm going to place that where I think I need it to go, which I think will be there. That looks straight, I hope so. And put that in place, move that, ink my stamp, and then slide this down in the corner. I think that may have moved. And because this is a photopolymer stamp, I just hold it for a few seconds to give the ink a chance to transfer onto the cardstock. I think that's okay. So we'll do the banister next and the staircase. What we need to do is take our rulers and that's it. Work on with your grid paper. Make sure you're all lined up. And I'm sorry, but I do work in inches. So what you need to do is mark on 3/16 and then move your ruler back so your 0 mark is on your pencil mark. I'm out of the way, aren't I? You can't see that. Let's start that bit again. If you mark 3/16 of an inch here, and then move your ruler so your 0 comes up to your mark, your pencil mark, and then you mark at 1 1/8, so that's that mark there. Then move along to your 0 again, and then mark at 1 1/8 along, and 1 1/8 along, 1 1/8. And then what we need to do is, this is where we need to be lined up. So it doesn't matter which lines you use, because you're just going to eyeball this. But what I do is I line my ruler up with the first mark, then I judge to make sure that I've got the same amount of gap here as I have this end. Well, obviously I haven't. I think you can see that, can't you? So I'm going to move that so that they look about even. Now that does look about the same as that to me. So I'm just going to put another little pencil mark, move along and do it again to all of my little marks, making sure each time that this size square looks about the same as that size square, and then just another little pencil mark, and then this one. If you like to be absolutely perfect, then you could line each pencil mark up to a new line. But close enough is good enough for me. Okay, that looks about the same. In fact, no, that looks a bit bigger. No, that looks about the same. Right, okay. Now we need a line that's 1 and, what did I say this was? 1 1/8 up here and 2 5/8 here. Again, you don't have to use these measurements, you can do your own, you could just eyeball it and guess it. And this one was what, 2 5/8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Little mark there. And all I'm going to do is just join these two lines together. This one we're going to be actually adhering our banister over it, so we're not going to have to rub this one out. In fact, we'll be covering all of them up. Okay. So first of all, choose 2 pieces that you'll be happy for them to follow on the banister, because your piece is not going to be long enough to follow. So you've got to check 2 things. One, to make sure that these are both the same size, and that's not really, is it? That looks quite a wide one. Yeah, that's more or less. And they're going to be following on from each other, but then no way are these going to match. Oh, she says. It does look as if it matches up. But it doesn't matter if it doesn't, because on the card, as you can see, the join is just under there. It's going to be covered up, but it may notice if it's not the same width. Depends where you put your bow. I suppose if you do it wrong, you just put your bow so it does cover it up. Anyway, so what we're going to do, I'll take my silicone mat, and this is one leftover piece I had previously, so I'm going to use that. Okay, so I'm just going to use some Tombow here. In fact, it's the other piece I need to be putting on my silicone mat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, each time our pencil marks are going to be this edge here, but I want to cover them up because I don't want to have to go back and erase them all. And you're also going to make sure that the left hand corner here goes over your line. Okay, so left hand side. So I'm going to make those go cover up there, and it's gone over the line. And the reason you've got 2 marks there is because if you line them up, you know your upright is going to be straight. Okay, so I've gone over my pencil mark here, not too much, but I've gone over it, and I've also covered up these 2 marks. So the next one I do, I'm going to cover up those 2 marks, but only just so that I know that I'm keeping it straight. Now the next one, let me show you why I've got a small piece like this. What I did was I measured it approximately, took my scissors, and oh, there they are. I like these, my little paper snips. And what I did, I just cut a piece off like that, so I can use that again. So I'm going to glue this one. Just push this down so it's lining up my 2 pencil marks, so I know it's straight, and just move it over to cover them. Then I just eyeball it to make sure it is about the same gap there. Again, it's one of those things, if you want to measure it to make sure, by all means. Okay, lining up with 2 pencil marks and then sliding it over slightly. It looks about straight. Another one I'm going to cut. That's slightly longer, that one. Okay, line the 2 little lines up and then pull it over slightly to cover. And eyeball it just to make sure it still looks straight. And then the last one, line 2 lines up and move it slightly. Yes, that looks quite straight. And then the 2 that I'm lining up for my actual banister bit, do the long one first. And you just need to make sure that it comes off the edge. So that it comes off this bit here. And then I'm just covering up, making sure I cover up the line, and I'm going to cover up all my end pieces here. Make sure there's nothing showing up there. Okay, so I'll come back in a minute and I'll trim that bit off. And then this one, I think it was there that matched up, didn't it? Just a little bit of Tombow at the end here. And then just line that up. There's no way I could have planned to have got that to have lined up like that. No way. Right, okay. So, pick this up and turn it over and then just cut all your pieces off. I will use my non-stick scissors for this. Okay, so that's our banister done. And by doing the piece of tip-top taupe the size I said, it will give you more than, yes, more than enough you need for one card. Right, now I'm going to adhere this to my card base. The reason I put this on before I do all the wreath and the flowers is because once you start putting those on, once you've got your card together like this, it's easier to see where you want everything to go. Now, we've got stamping to do next. As well as this piece, you'll also need a scrap piece of Whisper White, because you're going to need to do 3 bows and 7 flowers. Now what I do with this, I do it all at the same time. Obviously I've got all my bits cut out, but just to show you how I do this, I'm using a wild wasabi for the main wreath. Is this right? Yes, that's right, because it's the lighter one. Okay. Now, if you haven't used this stamp set before, each of the wreaths have got this little tab on it. Line those up each time. That's the way each of these stamps has been designed. And also, when you come to die cut the wreath out, there's a tab on the actual dies as well. Let me show you, like on here, so you know that that will cut out like that. Once you've done as many of these as I have, you'll know which bits line up with which. This is really one of my favourite stamp sets. So again, this is photopolymer, so just give it a few seconds for the ink to transfer. A lot of people use their piercing mat underneath this because there is no sponginess on the actual stamp, but I just find that as long as you give it enough time to soak in, it's fine. So that's that layer, and then for the next set of leaves, as you can see, it's got the tab on here. Now the easy ones to line up here are, let me use a pencil to point, are these two here and that little one there. It's easy to line those up on those two there, sorry, those two there and that one there. If you get those lined up, everything else should be okay. I'm going to bring this towards me to try and get this in. What I do is I get those three little ones lined up and I keep them lined up as I go down. But as soon as I fill the paper, that's it. I have to go for it then. If you don't line up perfectly, it doesn't matter. In fact, I can see that I didn't line up perfectly on that bit there. I'll show you so that you know I am being genuine in what I'm saying. In fact, I haven't lined up properly on this one either. Let me show you. Can you see on this big one round here? You can see the little green, the lighter green underneath, and further round you can see it there. See, it really won't matter. Let me show you on this one. I don't know whether you'll see it because the flower might be in the way, but that one there didn't. No, you can see that didn't line it up. In fact, there's another one over there as well. Didn't line up. See? You probably didn't notice when I showed you the card originally, so which goes to show it really doesn't notice. Right, okay, so this is my flower and this is the bow. So what I would do next is I would stamp out 3 bows and 7 flowers. Okay, so imagine I've done all of that. Then I'll bring over my big shot and just clear the space here. Okay, so I'll put this down. Now the tab was up there, and I know that because those are the two little ones and that little one that we concentrated on trying to line up. So the die set I'm using is the wonderful Wreath Framelits dies, and for the wreath there's the large one for the outside. Okay, so I've lined these two up and that, and I've got the tab facing upwards. And then there's a little one to go inside. Again, have the tab going upwards. You can see it better there. But also look out for this tail here. Okay, if you get those two in there, you're good to go. Just make sure that you can't see any of the stamped image through here. Okay, so I've got my tail all lined up there and I can't see any painting there. So then what I would also do is bring these two in and line the bow up. Obviously you're only going to have one wreath to cut out, but the next time I would do another bow and a flower and do it again third time, but then you finish up doing 4 flowers on its own. It just cuts down the amount of times you have to use your elbows. There we go. And place the other cutting mat on top. Bring that one down here, that one down here, and I'll move this out of the way. There we go. Okay, so to pop these out, quite easy. And because you will have more to do, this little piece here, there's room there for a flower. And you'll probably be able to get more out of there as well to save wastage. And then the bow, that just pops out too. And then the flower. Okay, looks like I had something on the back. Yes, I do. I don't like wasting anything. Pop that there. So where did I put all of mine? Okay, so true Blue Peter style. Here's one I prepared earlier. So what I need to do with my card now, bring this one back in again so you can see that. First of all, have a look at your wreath and see if there's any parts on it that you don't like, that you would like to have actually covered up. If there's nothing, then just find 2 bits to cut across. I do tend to just do it a little bit curvy, go around the leaves that where I've chosen to cut. Some of this might show through depending on where you put it. It may not. You may purposefully decide that you'll put your bows so it does cover it up. But I do try and have a little bit exposed, and then decide what you think is about halfway across. And again, cut round it. I'm not very precise on it. So there's that one, and let me just tidy this bit up. There we go, that's fine. So then this just goes on here. This is what I'm saying. I like to have mine so that I can show a little bit of the banister there. So you just decide. Got a little bit on there that I don't want to be there. So, okay. See, you can, if I put mine like that, how I want it to go, you can just about see the join there where I put the banister together. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do, and I'm just putting a bit of Tombow at the top. I don't worry about gluing it down all down the banister. It's only this bit here I've done and this bit. Okay, so I'm going to pop it down so that I can see my banister. And then I'm going to do this piece. Okay, so I've got a little gap in here as well, that's okay. Now with the 3 bows, I'm just going to put some Tombow across the actual fold in the bow, not the tails. Okay, now to pop these up, what I'm going to do is this one first, and I'm going to leave some greenery showing, but try and keep my bow straight. Yes, that's good. And then with the 2 outside ones, you can afford to allow your bow to go off slightly. If you're using the Stampin' Up envelopes, you've still got some playroom there. It will still go in. Your cards don't fit in our envelopes tight, which is one of the things I like about them, because it means that if you've got dimension on your card, it allows you room in there. Right, now with my flowers, what I'm going to do is I just pop these up. If you've got a piercing mat, you can do this on there. I prefer to do it on my hand. Bit of laziness, I suppose, that I can't be bothered to find out where my piercing mat is. And for 7, that's okay. Right, so I tip them all upside down. A little bit of glue. If you wanted to use a little bit of dimensional, you could do, or if you wanted to use glue dots, you could. This is the kind of job I just don't like glue dots for. Oops. Oops, whoops, whoops. Having said that, glue dots are not as messy as this. And maybe I should use them. Right, okay, one of these bits was... oh, here's my piece of paper here. That one had rather a lot of glue on it, so I'm just going to dab it off on some scrap paper. So first of all, I have one inside each of the bow, and then I have 2 in here somewhere. Got some coloured bits of hairy bits here, look. Can't stand seeing those. Yes, just put these in a random way, like I have there. If you didn't want to do the flowers, there is another stamp that comes with this set, which is holly berries. So you could actually just stamp the red holly berries onto here before you die cut it out, and then not use the flowers. That's one of the beauties about card making. It's all about choices, what you like, what you don't like. Okay, so that's that. Now, this card I made first of all last week for my blog, and this was one I did. Now, I didn't like this for two reasons. One, because I didn't like the real red, which is why I've used cherry cobbler here. The other thing I didn't like was I painted my pearls yellow because I wanted them to emulate poinsettias, but that yellow was too yellow. The only reason I got flowers here is because I got a splodge up here and I needed to cover it up, but I didn't want those there either, which is why I've left this blank. Anyway, telling you all of that because this time I've prepared some more pearls, only this time I've used our blendabilities that have been withdrawn, and I've done a much lighter yellow, so you can see what it looks like with plain pearls. You saw what that one looked like with a really vivid yellow, and now you can see what it's like with a pale yellow, and you can decide for yourself if you make this card what you would like to do. I mean, there are other options. You could use our I don't know what we call it, it's like liquid glitter, or you could use crystal effects as well. And then once that's done, I just tip my flowers up again, and that's it, my card is done. So what do you think? Do you like the pale yellow, the no yellows? Let's put those in the centre so you can see them. And what did I do with the other one? The one that I don't like, and that one. So it's all a matter of taste. I hope you like it, and I hope you give it a try because it is quite a stunning card. It's another one of those that I wouldn't do for everybody on my Christmas list because there's quite a lot of work involved, but it's certainly worth it for special people in your life. Anyway, many thanks for watching my video. If you have any questions, please ask. I'm always happy to help. If you'd like to buy any of the products I featured here, please click on the link that's below, and that'll take you straight to my 24/7 online Stampin' Up shop. If you've enjoyed my video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button, which is on the right, should be on the right hand side of your screen, or it may be below your screen, depends what you're watching this on. Many thanks for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting. Cheerio.